but they had the stage set up like a ship, and there was a cabin on one of the sides that was like, so the stage is about 6 feet off the ground, and then this was like another like 8 feet, and they let me set my keyboard up on that. So I was like 20 feet off the ground.
Coming at you with Subversion.
Hey there, ladies and gents. How do you like the new intro tunes? Pretty slick, huh? My guest today, Ben Kath, made it, so shout out to him. Thanks, man. Sounds dope. And he actually makes hip-hop beats for people and is sort of launching a side business doing that. So you can find him and get a hold of him on that at benjamminbeats.com. All one word there. You can find a link to that in the show notes for today, which will be at subversionwebcast.com/Kath, Kath. I'm going to keep this intro real nice and short for you. I'm digging up the charity project from Joe Scarpolino's episode, and you can find that at donorseed.com/project/487. And this is from some folks in Uganda called the Nakasake Children's Home. And what they're doing is they just need a very small amount. 440 was their goal for this, and there's only $150 left. So if we can just rally up just a couple people to throw some money at this and share this episode so that we can reach out to more people and get more of these projects funded, I would really appreciate it. It would mean a lot to me. And what it goes towards are 3 sewing machines so that they can start creating material to sell on the market so that they can become more self-sufficient. All right, as I said, I'm going to keep it real nice and short here, and we'll just dive right into the interview here. I'll see you at the end.
I'm Benjamin Nicholas Kath. I go by Benjamin K on stage. My parents have been calling me Benjamin since I was like 3 years old, so I kind of just like fell into the rap name. I didn't really have to think about it.
So it's sort of an endearing thing going back to childhood.
For sure.
Which leads right into my first question. What's your origins? What was your family like growing up? Things like that.
Yeah, I'm the oldest of 4 siblings. So I was about 3 when they had my sister. I have 2 parents, and they are still together. They're happily married. They're very inspiring to me. They always told me to do what I love and to go for whatever biggest dreams I could think of. And it's just funny because music kind of just like happened at the very last second, like after high school, like start of college. So sure. I didn't really like start that very early on. Me and my sister had an amazing relationship. She's still like one of my best friends. She's awesome. She's very creative as well. She's an artist. She does paintings and drawings and like poems and all these awesome things. So we are kind of inspired by each other.
Cool.
Then I got 2 younger brothers who, one of them is pretty creative as well. One of them is just like outdoorsy, which is funny because he's the only one that is, but that's like the whole Kath clan kind of thing. They hunt and fish, and he's the only one that and he's the youngest. So my dad finally got someone who wanted to do that with him because like I watch football with him, but other than that, I don't really do anything.
Yeah, none of that other manly stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Not too many manly things. No.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny that creative people, it's like you either come from a really broken, crazy family or a really supportive, positive family that's always been behind you.
Yeah, no in between, really.
You're in that latter camp.
Yeah, for sure.
And so you mentioned you didn't get into music until well after high school, so you didn't do any like chorus or band or anything like that?
No, not really. I was in choir for 1 semester because it was required. But I started rapping because I have no tone. I can't sing. So, I mean, like I tried to, and I played piano every once in a while, like popular songs I learned, but like other than that, yeah, I just did choir because I had to, basically.
Yeah, and I mean, rap is obviously one of those things you don't actually need any sort of musical talent going into it.
Yeah,
you just need to have
the
poetic prowess, to go into it. So, and do you make your own beats or anything like that?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep. So that's what I actually started doing before I even started rapping. I downloaded a free program that like you could make beats in, like a certain amount of loops you could have. It like limited your amount because it was free and whatnot. But so I started doing that, and like I just bought like a cheap keyboard from Target and thought like I could do this. I've been listening to hip hop for a few years now, and I just like started playing around with it and got some stuff going. And after that, I started rapping over it. So yeah,
Okay.
I make all my own beats. I have people that help me level it, like my friend Brandon and all these other networking guys I got now. But
Yeah, the whole audio engineering thing is kind of something that's way over my head.
oh
where
yeah, for sure.
it's like I'd really like to. I'd always been interested in doing DJ music and doing kind of electronic productions, but I just never took the plunge to actually
Yeah, and a lot,
learn it because it's pretty daunting.
It's insane. It's an ocean, man, because like it's a lot of it's still over my head too, and I've been doing it for years. Like there's still so many things that I'll never understand probably.
Right.
So
I mean, I guess so did you teach yourself just general chord structures and things like that?
So yeah, nowadays like you can learn everything on YouTube. So yeah, I've never been like classically trained in piano or anything. I kind of just like learned what chords go together and what like kind of sounds you can create melodies with and stuff. And it's nice because like with hip hop, that's all you really need. You don't need to have like this dense like knowledge of like music theory and stuff. So
right, absolutely.
Yeah.
So growing up, were you really into hip hop as a teenager or anything?
No,
like that?
that's the other funny thing too. I actually have my two best friends from high school, Dylan and Jared, to thank for that, because in like sophomore or junior year maybe of high school, they introduced me to hip hop. Before that, I was just like Three Doors Down, Fall Out Boy, that kind of stuff. Like didn't even think about listening to rap. Yeah. And then they introduced me to like 2001 by Dr. Dre and a few Snoop Dogg albums and like Eminem and like all that kind of stuff. And that's like where my old school like techniques come from. Like I like a lot of like old school like piano driven like bassy kick drum type beats. So like I have them to thank for everything. I don't think I'd even be like a hip hop artist if it weren't for them.
Okay.
So like they introduced me to it, and then a few years when I graduated, I was like, I think I can do this.
Okay.
So then that's when I started doing it. And I actually rapped with my friend Dylan for the first year or so. We had a project together, and we kind of just rapped back and forth with each other. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you're pretty well equipped to do freestyling and stuff like that then?
I wouldn't say freestyling. We do it we do it for fun. We did it at parties throughout college and stuff, but I wouldn't call myself a freestyle rapper at all. I'm much more like rehearsed. Like I do the songs every day up until a show to like know that I won't mess up kind of thing.
Yeah, and I mean I still have a great deal of respect for anyone who can actually, go out there and put their stuff out there in the world, whether you freestyle or not.
For sure.
I've got to have respect for that because it's something I haven't done and am not willing to do. You know?
For sure.
As vulnerable as I get is this right here. So
yeah,
but yeah. Anyway, and I'm always just curious about hip hop influences because I've been a big fan of hip hop myself. So I mean, I'm sure being that you're into what you're into now, what do you typically listen to as far as hip hop goes?
My favorite rapper for a while now has been Atmosphere.
Okay.
So like I listen to a lot of him.
Seems to be a common theme here in the
for
Twin
sure.
Cities.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I haven't lived in the Twin Cities my whole life either. Like I went to school in St. Cloud and I lived in Buffalo before that, a smaller town in Minnesota. So
Yep.
I've always just thought his style is really like, I wouldn't say I'm necessarily influenced by him either, because my music isn't really like deep like his. It's more just like fun. But like I just have always had a lot of respect for him because he talks about deep topics and he's vulnerable, like you were saying, and like just like really tells his story through his music. And I think that's really inspiring. And I don't think there's enough of that nowadays to go around for everyone. So I think that's really cool.
And I often say on the show that he's kind of like the white whale for me. I'd really love to sit him down and be able to do an interview because he seems like a really solid dude.
Oh
like
for sure. He
really
seems
chill
really cool. Like he'd be easy to talk to, and he'd have a lot of good things to say. And like other than that, I like Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre and Eminem, like that whole crew from like the '90s. I really wish I was into hip hop when they were really big, because like I remember like watching the MTV Awards where he did the Real Slim Shady, where Eminem did, where he had all the people dressed as him. And I remember I was like way younger then, and I was like, what is this? And my parents were like, oh my gosh, this is so stupid, blah, blah, blah. So maybe it was because of them. Like maybe it's because they didn't like rap. I never got into it. But
So how old are you then?
When that happened, I was probably...
No, I'm just saying like how old are you?
Oh, how old am I? Oh, I'm 25 right now. About to be 26 in a few months.
Okay, so you're roughly the same age as me, but I grew up with Eminem, I suppose. And,
for sure. That's what I was saying. I didn't really listen to him until he already had all his albums out. Basically, so.
And I remember seeing him on like MTV and doing I remember this one performance he did with Elton John that was really
Oh,
touching
yeah.
because people always called Eminem like a homophobe and
Yeah.
stuff because of some of his lyrical
For sure.
content.
I know.
Which, you know, yeah, he has some pretty provocative lyrics, but obviously the guy's not like a bigot or anything. He did a performance with Elton John, gave him a hug at the end, so it was just
Yeah.
kind of like thumbing his nose at
For
all
real. And I think that did like a really good job of it, because I think why people didn't like him at the beginning was because they took his lyrics too seriously. And like, I think like he also spoke to that, like in a lot of his later stuff too. He's like, they're still thinking I'm like serious, and like he like pokes fun with it even that way. Like he's just like on the track, just talking about what he wants to, and it's just not necessarily always serious. And in the earlier stuff, it usually wasn't. He was just having fun. So like, people were just taking him too seriously. And when he did that, it kind of showed everyone like, oh yeah, if Elton John like is down to, he's obviously not like that in real life, or you know, not as, you know.
I always like seeing rappers collaborate with like traditional rock and roll musicians like that too, because it sort of gives legitimacy, which is really messed up kind of in a way, gives legitimacy to the genre, but it's weird, like it shouldn't need it, but it does make me, even as a hip hop fan, be like, oh, this is a respectable thing now. It's not just like
For
this.
sure. Yeah, no, I know what you mean though, because like, and it didn't get taken seriously for a while, especially in the beginning too. And like, I think one of the first examples of that was "Walk This Way" with Run DMC and Aerosmith.
Oh, sure.
That was like one of the very first ones that people were like, "Oh wow, like Aerosmith's down to get with these rappers that we all think are weird. Like they're talking over music. What are they doing?" kind of thing. So I think that's really where it started, and I've always been interested in that too, like the fusion of like music, different kinds of music together. Like I always think that's so cool, like where there's like a certain kind of beat and then like singing over it or rapping over it that you wouldn't expect.
Sure.
I love just like mixing different instruments and genres together.
Yeah, and
I've always been really interested in that.
And it's kind of messed up how there's been so much of our pop culture and pop music that's been driven by blues and hip hop. I mean, if it weren't for the 80s rap movement, we probably wouldn't have pop music as we know it today. For better or worse, I guess. There's some pretty bad.
I get it.
There's some pretty bad pop music out there, but some of it's actually pretty good. I mean, admittedly, when I hear some songs so on Spotify now, they like make you listen to some pop music. You don't just get to choose anymore.
Yep. No, I know about that.
And every once in a while, when I have to endure it, I end up being like, kind of getting into it because there's a reason why it's popular.
It is. Yeah, for sure. And I think the part that people don't like is, and without even noticing it, because I think a lot of people don't notice it, but some people do that aren't necessarily trained in music. There's certain themes that come out of like pop music and even rap music now today that like producers start doing the same kind of things. Yeah. Like adding the same kind of elements. Like there's certain things, I can't think of an example right now, but I hear them all the time where there's like certain, not even like chord progressions, but certain things they add to the music that you hear in like almost every song today.
Yep, there are certain structures of songs that have always worked, and they actually use like social science to figure out like what sells and whatnot.
Part.
And this kind of even goes back way into like the birth of rock and roll during the Buddy Holly days, like during the 40s.
Oh yeah,
and 50s.
It's been going on for a while now.
And what's really funny, and I think I've mentioned this on the show before, I think people are just going to have to excuse me repeating myself on some of these stories, but
yeah, that's fine.
But there was a producer from back in those days, and it was just one producer or one production company that was releasing all of the music from like Richie Valens and Buddy Holly and all of those folks, and they all had one sound because that's what was working, so there was no reason to deviate. Yeah. So they always just pressured.
And no one was saying anything.
They always just pressured everyone to sound like Buddy Holly because that's what was selling. And the only time that someone broke away from that was with Elvis, and we all know how successful that turned out. So I think, in my opinion, that's a testament to sort of going against the grain, and it always seems to work out. The ones we notice, I guess.
For sure. And it's like, it's a risk, and it's like being bold, because like if you do go with the same sound, it's I feel like it's a lot more likely because
Yeah.
it's what people know. It's what people already listen to. So like, it's basically the same exact kind of song, but it's a new voice singing it. And they're going to be like, oh, cool. Like, we like this person too now, kind of thing. And there are still examples of people doing it, but I think there's a lot less.
Yeah.
Like a few that I can think of are like The Weeknd. He has like I feel like his producers make a lot of a different style of beats behind him, except for like, you know, the few mainstream hits he's had. I feel like those are kind of like a little more kind of the same style, but that's just because, you know, he had to make money too. But
Yeah,
at
for
the
sure.
same time, I think a lot of his stuff are a lot more different sounding, at least.
And what's that guy's name? Is it Mark Rubin? The guy that oh God, I think that's his name. He made a lot of the hip hop in the late 90s, early 2000s that is kind of like a signature. It's a mix of like R&B and traditional hip hop. And I think it's Mark Ronson. That's what I mean.
Yep, the guy that did the song with Bruno Mars.
Yeah.
Whatever. Yeah, yep, that guy.
Yeah, so it's people like that really kind of shape culture in when they do take those risks, right?
Exactly.
And I think the success, you know, he's one of those people where I mentioned that we notice him going against the grain and
Yep.
definitely,
Yep.
you know, taking things to the next level.
And
in
and
culture.
it brings music forward, and it takes it to the next level, like you said.
Yeah.
And I think like there's always going to be people like that too.
Sure.
As long as there's people growing up thinking creatively and thinking of new things.
Right. So and I guess I'm kind of curious what your other musical influences are, because I asked about hip hop, but what are some other things that you listened to growing up?
I listened to a lot of classic rock because that's kind of like what
Sure.
my dad listened to. Me and him went to a Def Leppard concert like a few years ago.
Nice.
My uncle took us there, so that was super cool. I've always liked that kind of music.
I've always kind of considered that my parents' generation of music, and I never
Yeah,
really
for
like.
sure.
Like I liked some of the hippie stuff, like my parents liked the Doors.
Yeah,
and
yeah, like the Doors and Pink Floyd and stuff. I've always loved them too.
I guess I got into some of it though, but the hair metal stuff I just couldn't get into. Like my dad really liked Metallica, and I got into Metallica and Iron Maiden. I like them.
Yeah, for sure.
But I didn't like Poison or Motley Crue or like or
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about Def Leppard. They're not even Def Leppard. They're not even really hair band. Really,
Not
it's
really,
more
no.
it's more like old school rock and roll.
Yeah.
but
They just
still,
fell into that genre because it was the same time frame, and
Right.
they didn't really know what else to call it. So,
right, for sure.
yeah. I mean, other than that, yeah, I like a lot of like current pop artists too. I mean, I not so much anymore, but I listened to a lot of Katy Perry when she first came out. I like
Sure.
her. I don't know. I mean, I've been listening to a lot of stuff on like SoundCloud lately too, and like I'm trying to like
sure.
listen to like a lot of emerging artists
Okay.
and like some stuff that's like not so mainstream, especially since like, I mean, I'm coming from like a group of friends that are trying to get their name out there too, and I'm just trying to like be a lot more supportive with like the like more of the underground kind of stuff. And I found a lot of cool stuff on SoundCloud and like just a lot of these emerging artists. There's a group on YouTube called Team Backpack, and they have like a lot of really amazing rappers on there. So like I've been listening to a lot of them as well. So and getting different influences from them.
Yeah, for sure. And that's sort of like taking cues from the culture at large, because that stuff that you see in the underground is eventually going to become
Exactly.
cool. So you got to be
Yep.
kind of hip on it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I like going through SoundCloud too and just listening to some of the independent producers out there.
Yeah,
And
it's super awesome.
Yeah, and I'm always looking for instrumental music to use for intros and outros here, and I'm always looking on SoundCloud and trying to message people on there, and no one ever gets back to me. I don't know if it's just
I don't think
because
they ever think to look at it.
Yeah, I think I don't know.
not more-
SoundCloud's just a weird platform. It's really great for music, but not where they
Not
lack
for networking or messaging
Yes,
or anything.
They
Yeah.
lack in the actual social media medium in a way where I feel like they could have improved on that. And actually, SoundCloud might be going out of business soon.
Oh wow.
That site might be down soon, which is kind of a shame because
Yeah, I mean, it's probably partly to do with what you're saying right now. I mean, partly
Yeah.
that, and just I don't know. There's so many other platforms too that like
Yeah.
people have been telling me to get on other platforms as well, and maybe I should since you just said that.
I don't even know what else, what other like sort of music producer social media platform there is, though. Even though that's like its aim, it's not very good at it. You know?
Yeah, I totally know what you mean. Like I had to look things up to find other ones. There's Reverb Nation is one. There's like Bandcamp.
Yeah.
There's like a few different ones, but like yeah, I mean, they're all just as small as SoundCloud, basically.
I guess
so,
I definitely have heard of Reverb Nation, and I've never really used it. So
yeah, for sure. Neither have I.
Yeah. So why don't we pivot to the music then?
Yeah.
So you did mention that your music is definitely more positive, and like it's not like really super introspective. It's more about just having a good time. And I think that just from the very your right down to your artist name, right, is sort of like this.
It is.
It's giving you the cue that that's the sort of direction that you're going with your music.
And that's always kind of how I've looked at it too. I mean, I don't want to sound like spoiled or anything, because I definitely wasn't. I mean, we didn't have that much money growing up. I got we got free lunches. I got most of my college paid for because my dad doesn't make that much money.
Oh, okay.
But like, I only say that because the reason I mostly just talk about fun topics and just like silly metaphors and stuff is because I don't really have any hard stories to reflect through my music.
Okay.
I didn't really have that many hard times growing up. So that's kind of like why.
Sure.
If I did, that'd be like the easiest thing to rap about, because that's what a lot of these people coming up from like ghetto neighborhoods or like hard like areas in the city are talking about, because like that's like it's like what they want to talk about. It's like a great platform to tell your story through. And I've kind of done that through my music too, but like I said, I just haven't like ever had a very like hard experience to talk about. And when I did, when I had like relationship problems or like, you know, like little things here and there, I always made a song about it. And that's like kind of what's awesome about music, is that you can get out your feelings and emotions in a positive way with music, and it like helps you get through it, basically.
I don't think that music always has to be, or the lyrical content in music doesn't always have to be about something heavy. And you know, maybe in your own life, what you see as just minor turbulences, other people might experience emotionally as a sort of deeper trauma. You know, so maybe it's just the way that you personally handle life that you feel like you haven't had.
I guess. Yeah.
I mean, obviously,
it's
you
all
didn't
perception. It's all different. Yeah, it's all relative, I guess.
And it's not like you grew up in the south side of Chicago or L.A., so it is certainly hard to relate what you're going with in your music and what potentially other sort of underground rap is doing in other, you know. But that's sort of I don't know, the direction you're going seems to be sort of indicative of the Twin Cities hip hop culture, where it is more geared towards having a good time and enjoying life, rather than sort of I don't want to say maybe dwelling on some sort of negative aspect in culture.
For sure.
So,
and it always finds like a beautiful balance between the two. Like for every song that someone like that grew up in a rough neighborhood has, they have another song that is like positive, and it's just like everything's gonna be okay. And it's really easy to like just throw little things in, like, oh, this happened to me and that sucked, but whatever, and throw it off and throw it into a fun song and make it positive and like make it feel like everything's gonna be all right. And it's because it is, you know, and we're all gonna make it through. Right. So, and that's really like the teamwork that we have in hip hop today, and I really like appreciate it, and I like being a part of it. So
for sure. So, in the first song maybe I'd like to talk about is this short, sweet one, written in bold. Yeah. So
it's basically like the epitome of what I've been doing this whole time.
Yeah.
It's like there's no hook in it. It is very short, like you said. It's just a 32 bar verse, basically just like goofing around, changing up the beat, and just having a good time with my music. And that's like basically what I've been going for this whole time.
You guys met my friend Ben. Ben is bold. He is bold. Somebody command B that dude, and it just stayed that way.
Keyboard psycho, pallets on pypo. Beats are getting fat, but we gotta skip the lipo.
I'm not that, I'm big bomb.
All your raps are typos. I'm on the automatic with the manual flow. Go! Jam inside of this world, wandering on Neptune, digging up pearls. I was chilling on Earth, I got song ain't a size this. Let's go! Skitty scat like that, I'm on the mat. Every time I act, I'm nicking that patty wet. Feel the attack of the Buffalo Bison. Every time I ball, I'll be winning that Heisman. Cut out wild to mastermind, yeah, cut out styling. Bow tie with the shirt and collar, try to out our guile him. Goldschlager dripping, skate trick pimping. I'm on the stage winning, my homegirl's grinning. My alter ego comes out, man, she starts cringing. She should just be thanking God that I'm not singing. Hot like a fleece in summer, I'm hip hop's hocking, making you sound like Dumb and Dumber. Sorry dude, bummer, all we do is go ham, stacking fly jams like the lumber. So this is how it goes, better stop my track before your tape deck explodes. You'll see me rocking that purple and gold, homegrown, it's Ben Jammin, written in bold. Italicized and underlined too, folks, yeah. Ben Jammin out.
When you're creating, are you kind of riffing? Are you writing it down and then putting it into something constructed, or are you sort of starting with the beat and then building on top of that?
That's the fun part. It is never the same for me. I know everyone has a different way of doing it, and sometimes and it always sucks because I'm always at work when I think of things.
I
usually.
definitely understand.
So I'm always at work. It's always about that 12 p.m., 1 p.m. time where you're just the most amped up for the day. You haven't gotten tired yet, and you're just your mind's just going crazy. And I work at Target. I work with guests all day and other team members. So and it sucks because I gotta sneak to the back room to write it down or get something out so I can work on it later when I get home. But yeah, it's never the same. It's always I'm thinking of lyrics at work. I come home, try to write a beat to it, or I'm at home and I'm writing a beat and I write to that. So it's usually one or the other. There's nothing in between. But yeah, I never start with the same thing.
So you don't want to be that weird guy that's standing at the checkout aisle behind the cashier counter and just wait a second, ma'am. I got this really good idea. Or you just get out your phone and use the
vocal
memo.
Record it. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just some random thought.
Yeah, I've never done that. That'd be hilarious though.
I can just see creative people doing that.
Yeah, for sure.
I've got friends who I'm sure have no scruples about embarrassing themselves. And
I know.
And would totally take that leap to
I'm definitely that kind of person. I do not get embarrassed easily at all. So.
Yeah. So maybe that's something you can do. Just keep a little vocal recorder.
For real. I mean, it's better than writing it down. I've never been a good texter. I'm not good at typing on my phone. So
sure.
it always takes me forever. So yeah, that might actually be more beneficial to me.
And luckily for me, I kind of work in a job where I'm alone most of the time. So I can just kind of stop whatever I'm doing for a moment and jot something down. And usually for me, I mean, obviously I don't make music or anything or poetry, but sometimes I just have ideas about things I want to talk about on the show or things like that that I need to get down in writing, or else it just gets lost in the ether of my thoughts.
For real, especially when you're thinking of things at work and thinking of things outside of work, and just your mind can only handle so many things at once. That's why you need to get it out and get it written down, or else it's just gone. I've lost so many things just laying down to go to sleep at night. That would be so cool, or that would be such a cool part to do, and then it's just gone because I don't write it down.
Yeah, I was listening to I listened to Joe Rogan's podcast, and he always has comedians on, and it seems like I noticed this thing with them where they always think of some of their best jokes and they're laying down to go to bed. So a lot of them just stay up late and wait for that to happen. Just wait to get tired and feel inspired. Yeah, which everyone's got their own method of aggregating their thoughts.
It is, and it's weird how that actually happens, because it makes you think we're almost not even in control of our thoughts sometimes. It's just constantly going. It's almost like a different part of us, because I don't just I'm not at work trying to think of things. I'm just at work doing my normal routines, and then the stuff just comes up.
Yeah, it seems like some of the best artists, when you talk to them, they're more or less a passenger to their creative thoughts, and their responsibility is just to funnel that into something that's digestible for people.
I like that word, the responsibility, for sure, because I mean, if you don't, then it's never gonna get out there, and it might be something that someone else can relate to and get through something.
And you got to wonder how many artistic people have, or artistic potential there is, that doesn't make it out there just because people, we have a culture that, maybe to some people doesn't encourage them to pursue that.
Oh, totally.
And
I'm sure there's tons of missed potential.
Yeah. And I don't know what it is. It's got to be more than one thing. I can't just kind of throw at the wall like it's American culture's fault, because I think there's something in human nature which prevents us from actually wearing our heart on our sleeves.
Well, yeah, exactly. And it's like in this industry, you need to be vulnerable, and you need to, and like a lot of people are just scared of that. And it's not necessarily America saying that. I mean, other countries are the same way.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like, it all depends on the parents too. Like if it only takes one, like, oh no, that's stupid, don't do that as a kid. And you're just going to be like, oh, okay, I'm never going to do that. So it all just depends on your upbringing, your environment,
sure,
and just the way you feel overall about
absolutely.
it. So
I agree. So and then another song. Why don't we talk about the one that I wasn't able to hear?
Yeah. So I haven't released it yet, and it's called "Thank You," and it's about my wife. And I've made tons of music about her already. We've been together for about 2 years now, and she's gotten me through so much, and she like deserves a whole double album about her, and she's just like the greatest person I've ever met. And I could go on and on about that, but I won't. But basically what the song is, I'm not necessarily a religious guy, but I do believe in something that like brings us together, some sort of like destiny driven thing. And that's basically who I'm thanking in the song. That's the theme of the song, is I don't really know who I'm saying thank you to, but there's something that happened in both of our lives that had us end up in the same spot at that time. Like, I dated throughout college, but never really got serious. I never met someone that I fell in love with. She had been in a relationship almost her whole life since she was 14, and it wasn't good. And she had literally just gotten out of it, or was just getting out of it as I met her. So, we didn't start dating right away because she needed time, but like,
sure,
it was literally perfect timing. I could have transferred to any other Target. It was when I transferred into the cities from college that I met her. There were so many Targets. There's like, it's from Minneapolis. Target is in Minnesota. There's Targets everywhere here.
Yeah,
and again, it was my best friend from high school that convinced me to move here. Literally, he was my best man at my wedding. I owe him my life. And him and another one of my friends convinced me to come here. All of if one of those things didn't happen, I wouldn't be with her. Yeah. So that's basically the theme of the song, is saying thank you to this unknown force that just basically gave me the best gift of my entire life. So
yeah, it's pretty easy to try to externalize the things that happen to us as some sort of like these events couldn't be chaotic because they turned out so well. And that's a thought that I grapple with quite a bit as a materialist myself, because I feel like the world is sort of this chaotic mess of fortunate and unfortunate things that happen.
Yeah, and it's all uncontrollable.
But I have to admit, I mean, there are things that I've observed from an anecdotal perspective and from just stories that people tell me that would suggest that it's just beyond. It can't be a coincidence that certain things happen.
Yeah.
So I'm always sort of going back and forth on that myself.
Yep. And I've always thought like that my whole life too. And there's been things that have happened. And, I grew up in a religious family, and, of course, whenever I told my parents about it, my mom was like, oh yeah, it's just, God's plan for you and yada, yada. And she still says that to me. And lately I've been thinking differently, but like, I still do believe in some sort of force that is pushing all of us forward and bringing us all together in a certain way. Like, there's people that you've met in your life that you didn't like that have still helped shape the person that you are.
Oh yeah.
So like, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. It's still shaping who we are, and it's still helping us grow as people.
Sure. Like, the sort of resistance that I don't want to say your enemies have put up, but people in our life that have provided an obstacle or a challenge for us, sort of by its very nature, the experience that you have has to lend you some sort of lesson that you've learned from it.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's just what I mean too.
Yeah, so because if everybody was your best friend growing up and you never had anyone challenging you and being being that force to work against.
You wouldn't get anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, where would we be if it wasn't for any kind of competition or resistance?
Yeah. And that like in itself is positive, but at the same time, like that's where all the chaos you're talking about is coming from too, and it gets to be too much. And that's also what I've been thinking about lately too. And I've tried to create music about it, about all these wars and about all this like this crazy stuff that's going on in the world, but like I don't even know where to begin.
Yeah.
And I'm not really a political guy. I don't really like get into any of that, so I don't even know like what kind of vocabulary I'd use or what kind of like message I try to come across. The message is I don't like it.
Yeah.
That's all it really is.
Yeah, man. And I think that's the thing too, is we all have these impulses with the way that we observe the world, and how, and something I end up talking about a lot on this show is just the way that media shapes the id of any given country or civilization, you know, because I feel like a lot of the Western media is sort of in this groupthink of how the world order is supposed to be, you know.
Yeah.
And then when it comes down to foreign policy, for example, I stay pretty up to date on things like that and have very strong opinions, probably to my detriment in a way, because I take these hardline stances on things, and it can be pretty controversial. So it's really tempting just to take a agnostic or indifferent stance on any given thing that happens in the world, because you don't want to make people off put by you.
Yeah, exactly.
And it especially is important for me in this program, because with music, I feel like that's something that obviously artists politicize their songs, and obviously it's going to be a driving force for them. But at the same time, I like to keep the program pretty uncontroversial so that it can be digested by
exactly.
Because if anything's going to bring people together, it's art, you know.
Yeah.
But it sucks when it gets too politicized, and it's like either it's sort of tribalism, you know. It's either you're with me on this one particular issue, or you're my enemy, which I think is terribly reductionist.
Yeah, I know. And there's so much of that nowadays too.
Yes,
like
especially
on all social media and all like just so like these disagreements that just go nowhere. Like they're not constructive, and there's all this bias, and it's just totally like not helping anyone. It's not. It goes from just casual conversation to like you're the person I hate most because you don't agree with me.
Yeah, and you know, when the internet was first starting to come around, we thought that it was going to be a great thing for culture, and that it was going to break down barriers, and in some ways it has. I can talk with someone of a different language now. There are add-ons for like Skype, for example, where after you use it for so long, it will start translating your language to another language for someone.
Wow.
And it's like this adaptive technology where
I didn't even know that.
So we're being able to communicate with people that there is a communication barrier. I mean, really, language is like this huge cultural hurdle that has been really hard to get over.
Well, especially here too, because so many different cultures are coming here. Now, and with different languages. And
you have to have this sort of third party to translate, where now we can use technology to do that. So it's really it's a beautiful thing, but it's a double-edged sword, because social media and just the internet has drove us into sort of echo chambers where we insulate ourselves from opinions that we don't agree with. And I'm certainly guilty of this myself.
Oh yeah, I am too.
Just because of the people that I surround myself with in my circles on the internet. And the only thing that has really brought me beyond that is going on message boards where I know that there are people I don't agree with. And even though it's uncomfortable, I have to do it. Otherwise,
I just read through some of it, and
I'll become an ideologue, and I won't have any sort of instincts or anything that challenges my notions.
Yeah, for sure. And I've kind of become in the last few years like the complete opposite. Maybe not the opposite, but I've become to the point where like I don't have strong opinions about anything. So like it's gotten to the point where like I'm just like tired of like always having someone that's going to disagree with me and always having like these constant like arguments. So like I have just become like someone who just is fine with either side,
Yeah.
unless it's like really like, oh, is abortion okay? That's different. But like other things, like my wife just bugs me all the time because she like tells me about these things she's reading, and she's like, "What's your opinion?" And I'm like, I mean, I'm just I don't have one because I've just like become numb to it basically because it's just been the driving force of like everything the last few years. It seems like.
Yeah, and it's funny you should mention that because I'm in your girlfriend's position in my romantic relationship.
Oh,
where,
yeah.
where I'm always trying.
You can
trying
relate
to talk.
to her then.
I'm always trying to talk to my girlfriend about politics and things, and she tries to not take a stance on it because it's too complicated for her to deal with, I guess.
Yeah.
Or she, I think it does have to do with just an exhaustion. Like you're too exhausted mentally to even take up any given
It's definitely
issue.
Yeah, it's definitely both. Like it's become exhausting, but it's also like, yeah, a lot of the stuff she's saying is just so complicated, and just like a lot of it is above my head. She's a lot smarter than me. Just like like she reads a lot more articles and she's a lot more aware of things that are going on. I kind of just like live in a bubble, like with my music and my job. That's kind of like all I really like do nowadays. So like, I mean, it's just because it just takes up all my time. I don't really think about like reading the news or whatever.
Yeah, and it sucks because I'm always trying to talk to her about these things because I have a sense of duty, like it's my duty to have these conversations. When really, has it ever done? And maybe I just don't ever see it when I talk. When I have a casual debate with a friend over something with politics. Maybe I don't know that, I've given them a new perspective to consider or whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
Because that's the way I feel about it. I value that for that reason, just because, I'm at least getting out of my own thoughts and out of my own bubble of the circle of articles that I choose to read, But anyway, I don't know how we got from your your wife all the way back.
Hey, we
to
just
this.
met, man. That's just what happens. We tangent. We're just talking. But yeah, I mean, like that's basically what it comes down to, and I'm hopefully really gonna release it really soon so people can listen to it because it is really special to me. And it's just basically about thanking this unknown force that I believe is out there that's just driving us. And like I feel like. I mean, it might sound a little hippie-ish, but I feel like we all have a certain energy around us, and it might even be something to do with that too. That we're connected by the energies that we put off, and by that the world puts off. So, I mean, I've always thought that was really interesting because there's a lot of theories around that as well.
Sure. No, and I'm always compelled by explanations like that because even if I don't agree with a religious or spiritual interpretation of something like that, there is a value in it, and at least the phenomenon of how people perceive different human interactions. And science may, which I have a tendency towards, may explain it in a really academic way, for example. But it doesn't take away like the emotional connection that people have and why they came up with any given interpretation.
And it's just crazy to like even try to put things to a number or to an equation when like you have emotions running through you at any point of the day that you can't even explain sometimes. And there's just like so much, and we only use a certain percentage of our brain, and like the things like that I hear that are just like there's no way we could ever get everything down to a number or like an explanation. And that's really intriguing. And that's like what helps drive my creative outlooks on things.
Sure. So, and the last song that you had to share is Jamtastic.
Yeah.
So and just to sort of end on which this song to me sort of encapsulates your general vibe with your music, where it's
yes it does.
I think you're putting it out there in one term that people can use.
And
what
that's
you're all about.
Yeah, that's what the EP is called. It's called Jamtastic, and I just think I've always kind of used that play on words like my entire career. Like I had a song in college called Jamaholic. I had one at the very beginning called like Jammin' O'Clock. Like it's always Jammin' O'Clock. That was the topic of that one, and it's just all been like super fun, and I just like playing off the jam part of it. And
Sure.
like I've been in bands before, and you know they would always say, "Come over and jam." Like that was the term, and that's like I've been to a lot of music festivals and like that kind of stuff, and like that's always what they say. Like we're gonna jam, and it's basically like starting music with no plan is basically what it is. And that's why I like mixing in those like solos and stuff in there. There's one at the end of Jamtastic where I just like play on the keyboard for like the last minute or so. I like I like having my music like down to a T in the way that like it's laid out and like I know what's gonna happen, but at the same time it's really fun to just like let it go on repeat and see what you can come up with.
Oh, sure.
Kind of thing. And that's what I did in a lot of my bands because we were like jam bands.
Yeah.
We had like, you know, funky beats and we just like play for like 12 minutes straight sometimes. And and we'd come up with stuff that we wouldn't even like, you know, you don't even know what's coming.
Yeah.
So, and that's like, I really like that aspect, and I've tried to like bring that over to my hip hop style.
Okay.
I'm feeling jam-tastic, got rappers in elastic, style on spastic, yeah, I'm a fanatic, gonna put you in a ziplock, save your ass for later, just to let you out and end you like I'm
Darth Vader.
Yo, try to get on my level, man, I'm kicking up pebbles, about to blow the lid out like I'm a tea kettle, my track's heavy like a kilo, I granny when I free throw, I wake my crowd up when they're in limbo like DiCaprio. I'm like a hard buzz, watch my bar spin. I burn your shit up, Benjamin's into arson. This dude's a Martian, show me what you got, sir. My squad comes through, you're like, oh, real monsters. 90s, I'm back on it, I own it, don't flaunt it. You don't need to say you got swag to have it, doggone it. I like to keep it nice and exotic. Now bring my beat back, cause that shit is my tonic. Drop it. I'm a fanatic when the beat's dramatic. I can't help but feel a little bit jamtastic, jamtastic, jamtastic. Yeah, I'm jamtastic. I'm a fanatic when the beat's dramatic. I can't help but feel a little bit
Jamtastic, jamtastic, jamtastic. Yeah, I'm jamtastic.
I got nothing left, I used to have breath. Now I need a break before I drop the next load of spit on you selfish hypocrites. My style's a Ferrari, you can't even get your permit. Wit, you don't got it. Ben's about to go, but I know that he flows round and round, but to make another loop, and you better take cover, cause he's about to let loose. Duck, goose, I'm Zeus, standing tall, high down there. You need a little boost. Shoot, I take the cake, steal the loot. Minnesota winters with shorts and no boots to boot. When I got these rhymes on tap, man, I'm kind of a surprise. Yeah, bust out the gift rap.
Gift rap, gift rap.
I'm back on it, I own it, don't flaunt it. You don't need to say you got swag to have it, doggone it. Nothing gets me higher than a new project. Now bring my beat back, cause that shit is my tonic. Drop it. I'm a fanatic when the beat's dramatic. I can't help but feel a little bit jamtastic, jamtastic, jamtastic. Yeah, I'm jamtastic. I'm a fanatic when the beat's dramatic. I can't help but feel a little bit
jamtastic, 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 jamtastic.
Yeah, I'm a fan of jam band music. I used to kind of run around in those sort of circles. What music festivals have you been to?
I went to Harvest Fest.
Oh,
a lot of the ones at Harmony Park.
Okay.
I went to 10,000 Lakes Festival too. That was the first one I
nice.
went to, and that was like, it shouldn't have been the first one I went to because it was so big and like
Yeah.
overwhelming. I was just like, holy crap.
Which year was that?
It had to have been like 2009 or 10 maybe.
Do you remember what bands were there?
It was Dave Matthews headlining.
Okay, so that was the last 10K that they had.
It must have been, yeah, because I forgot that they just stopped having them because someone got hurt or whatever, right?
It was more than that. It was Dave Matthews Band is a huge act to have, and the turnout wasn't as good as they thought it was going to be.
Oh, and they just couldn't.
Yeah, it bankrupted them.
Yeah,
So I went the year before that, and funny we should bring this up. Do you know who Dead Larry is?
Yeah,
at all?
yeah, I do. I've seen them.
I had both of the two frontmen from that band. I had interviewed them, and actually Joe's is going to come out next week.
Cool.
But I actually heard about them first at this 10K that I went to, and the Flaming Lips were there. But it was just funny because they were an Iowa band, so you would think that I would have heard about them beforehand somewhere. But hey, bud.
Hey, how's it going?
Just curious kids.
Yeah.
But anyway,
What's going on in here?
what I liked about 10K was that you could drive your car up to your campsite. I had never been to a festival that was like that.
Yeah, me either.
And you had went to Harvest Fest when it was actually called Harvest Fest. Then.
Yeah. Yep, I went to Harvest Fest, and then one year I actually played with my band at Plunder Fest, which is the pirate-themed one.
Yep.
And I don't know if you ever saw, but they had the stage set up like a ship, and there was a cabin on one of the sides that was like, so the stage is about 6 feet off the ground, and then this was like another like 8 feet, and they let me set my keyboard up on that. So I was like 20 feet off the ground performing for this group at Plunderfest, and it was just a great time.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I actually knew the guys that put on Plunderfest.
Oh, cool.
But I never ended up going.
Yeah,
but
it was a fun
good time.
Oh yeah, it was great. Yeah, I had a lot of friends that went, and it was super fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been to one other pirate-themed festival out in the middle of nowhere in Wisconsin, and yeah, it's always a good time when you got rum and pirates around.
Yeah.
Let me ask my last question here, which is, and I don't know if you came up with anything specific, but do you remember a time in your childhood when you sort of realized your mortality?
I was thinking about my childhood, and I don't think I did. I think I went through life not really thinking about that because I did, because we were religious and we talked about the afterlife all the time. So in that respect, I did. Mm-hmm. But I never really, because I fully believed it back then that I was going to go somewhere after I died. So I never really worried about it. And I think that's like part of the religion is you don't have to worry about death because you know you're going somewhere, or you believe that you are. I think the main time that I really did think about it that actually like really related to me was after I met my wife and I fell in love. Like I had never been in love before, and like the first few weeks are just like honeymoon. We're having the best time in the world. We're just like on top of the world. And then because you're on that high, your mind just, like without you trying, just thinks about like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to say goodbye to her one day. Like we fell in love super quick. We knew we were going to be together forever, like at the very beginning almost. And it was just because of the point we were in our lives, and we're going to be happy forever. But like I couldn't help but think like, I'm going to have to say bye to her on her deathbed, or vice versa at some point, or something traumatic's going to happen. You can't help but think about that when you love someone that much. Yeah. So I think that's like the best example. And I remember the moment specifically too. And it was as I was like waiting for her to get home one day, and I'm just like, there's going to be a point where I'm not going to be waiting for her to get home anymore, And that's like, it's really morbid, and it's like really like, that's just like basically the best answer I can come up with, because like up until that point, I was only worrying about myself, but it's way easier to think about death when you're worrying about someone else more than yourself, or just as much as yourself,
That's a really interesting answer, and I don't think I've ever had someone externalize it when I've asked this question, because I guess just the hubris of any given person there. When I ask the question, obviously they're only thinking of themselves, and so that's a really interesting take on it. And I think there's something there that we can all relate to, whether it's a romantic partner or whether it's
whether it's parents or best
or
friends
or siblings.
Siblings, yeah.
Siblings are some of the closest relationships that we ever have in life. I remember reading about how romantic partners, things happen, tragedies in life befall you. Some pretty intense things can happen that will tear apart a relationship, whether it be a friendship or a romantic relationship. Your parents you're gonna outlive your parents. You'll probably break away from your cousins, for example.
Yeah.
But the longest relationships that we have in life are with our siblings. So it just kind of, and I've worried about losing my significant other and family members as well. And I guess I never really thought about how much, we all have that, that fear that hits us every once in a while that we're going to die.
Yeah.
But I think there is something to say about when it's someone that you have a closer relationship with dying.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know. That just brings up for me a really important topic, which that valuing your time with other people is just as important as enjoying your life for your own sake.
It is, and there's only so much fun you can have by yourself, and there's only so much enjoyment you can get out. There's all of these people around you because we're meant to be, and maybe we're not. I mean, what we're really meant to do is like create life and keep our species going. That's like basically our main point.
Sure.
But like we've just become so like driven by relationships that's just like, if you're not creating relationships, I don't know what you're really doing. And like the people that commit suicide and the people that hurt themselves are the people that have no one. And I mean it's easy to notice that, and like or maybe not necessarily, they have like the connections just aren't good enough, and I feel like that's like the main drive in something like that.
Right, where they have people in proximity, but they're still lonely.
Exactly. And that can happen very easily.
And that's such a terrible thing when you have friends or family members who have problems with depression. It's really hard to tell them that it's going to be all right because they don't believe it, even though you're right there in proximity telling them
the emotional, that you love them and that they're okay. And that,
right.
Yeah.
So there's some sort of emotional transmission that isn't making it to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
And that's one of the most painful things in a relationship is when you're not on the same frequency. Emotionally, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. So. And I'm sure it's really hard for Lauren because I am just like overdrawn with emotion like all the time. I've always been that way, and my parents have said I was that way as a kid. Like I was just way more dramatic than every other kid, and like I still haven't learned how to tame it, and like music has done the best for it.
Sure.
Without that, I don't know what I would do. But like, yeah, I mean, I've always kind of been the person in the relationship with more emotion, and like it balances out good because she's really emotional too, but she is better at like taming it, and she's better at like calming me down when something's going wrong or whatever. And that's like one of the main reasons she's helped me too, is she helps balance. And like I feel like when I wasn't with anyone, I was like freaking out about random stuff way more often.
Yeah.
So
right.
Yeah.
Well, and it's kind of funny that you wear your heart on your sleeve in your normal life, but in your music, it seems to be more extroverted. Your music isn't really introspective, really, which. I'm not saying anything about
for
it
sure.
either way.
Yeah, and I think it's also because I am that way in my real life that I don't need to say it in my music.
Sure.
Like it's more about like I can throw on a track and rap about all these like fun topics and joke around this whole time because I've already like bled my soul to everyone. I don't really have anything. I can just like, or if I'm worried about one of those things, I can talk about all these other random crap and like not think about it or whatever. So it's kind of weird that like I don't get over it through talking about it through music. But like more about just like talking about it like with my friends and my family and whatnot. And when the music comes on, I just like go crazy and just have a good time. So
well, and I think it shows a certain sort of first of all, maybe confidence in your life and just a healthy way of dealing with your emotions. Whereas maybe even though in talking with artists, they will say that, you should pour all of your negative emotions that don't make you feel good into your music. and maybe the approach that you're taking, where you're putting more of your positive feelings and whatnot into your music, that perhaps it's since you already got all the negative stuff out in another way, you're providing a service to people in that the elated feelings that you're putting out through your music are sort of infectious. So
yeah, that totally makes sense. I guess I've never even made the connection that that's kind of what it is. And that's true.
And this is just armchair psychologist me with no credentials. Totally. I'm a blue collar guy. I'm not qualified to make.
You're totally like Lauren in that way though, that like other than just like trying to talk to your girlfriend about the articles, like she does that too, but you're also like her in that way that she like tries to get into my head and is like, oh, I think it's because of your parents that you act this way. Oh, I think it's because of this that you're acting this way, or like you feel this way because of that. And like I think it's hilarious that she does that. And
I'm just always the type of person myself that trying to look for a solid explanation for something. Because I just don't take things at face value, I guess, as much. Like,
you try to like look deeper.
Yeah, right. But anyway, I think we're gonna wrap up there, man.
Awesome.
Any plugs you want to make, or?
Not really. I'd just like to thank you for having me. I think.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, for sure. I can't wait for more things like this. I think it was awesome. I got hooked up with you, and we were able to do this. I think it was really fun. I don't get to talk about my music for this long ever usually, so I think it was really cool. And I can't wait to do more.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Thanks a lot, man.
Yep. Well, how about that, folks? Made it through another episode of Subversion, which means you made it through another week. So glad to have you here with me today. And I really hope that you enjoyed my conversation here with Ben Kath. He's a really positive, really awesome guy. So I hope you go and check him out. Local artists really do need your support. And what he's doing is, as you heard in the beginning of this episode, he made the new intro for Subversion, which is going to be my official intro now. Whereas before it was just a really dope beat from my first interviewee. His name is Bard. He's really awesome. But anyway, this will be the new one that you heard at the beginning here. But behind me right now, what you're hearing is Nick Bomarito, who I've been using in the outro, little ramblings that I do here. So I really do appreciate him putting out his music for free for people to use. He's a really excellent musician, more than just good background noise. His albums are really great, and I have put them on my MP3 players and listened to them just cruising around. So anyway, big thanks to all of you for listening, and I would really appreciate it if we could get this project to about 1,000 weekly listeners by April of 2018. That's the goal that I have set. So if you can just go and share this with just one of your friends that you think would, appreciate this show, who likes independent music, be an evangelist for me. I'd really appreciate it. At some point, it'll pay off. I promise. And the charity project for this week, just a reminder, is one that I dug up from a previous episode that hasn't gotten finished yet. It's from Uganda. And what they need is just $150 more to fund 3 sewing machines to get these girls the ability to be self-sufficient. And you can find that at donorseed.com/project/487. And that's all I've got for you this week. But please be here with me next Thursday when I dig into another interview with another independent musician. Until then, take care of yourself, and I will see you then.